think of it as like this experiment on a day-by-day basis or a week-by-week basis of what works and what doesn't work. If it doesn't work, okay, it didn't work. That doesn't mean that I'm a failure or I'm an awful person. It just means I tried something that didn't work and now I can learn from it and I can try something different.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step.
Just let go.
All right, everyone, I've got an announcement. As of today, we are officially enrolling for the 2021 Renegade Accelerator Program, formerly called the Renegade Brand Bootcamp. Okay, so who is this program for? What is it? The Renegade Accelerator is for driven female leaders, executives, and entrepreneurs ready to massively increase their impact and income. The program is for like-minded, like-hearted women all over the globe. The experience is intimate, live, real-time, virtual, and it's led by me. Our curriculum is equal parts education, practical education, collaboration, and accountability. In the accelerator, you'll learn directly from me, and I share everything I've learned over the past 20 years in business. We meet in real time to learn, discuss, and grow together. This is high touch. I'll teach you a variety of things, from personal branding to the business side of public speaking, podcasting, publishing, marketing partnerships, how to productize your intellectual property, and we even talk about investing. I teach you all about the different types of investing in order to build your personal wealth. You will also learn the renegade mentality, which is a key ingredient in your success to generate real results. This program is the career love of my life because I get to curate a mosaic of driven, like-minded, like-hearted women who come together to lift each other and themselves up to the next level. After the Renegade Accelerator, you become a member of my top-level alumni community. This group of unmatched women who are making a positive impact is personally curated by me. The relationship building and networking opportunities are endless, and this collective of real, valuable connections will be something that you have forever. If you're at the point where you are ready to take action and accelerate, head to renegadeaccelerator.com. You can sign up for more information where I will guide you in determining if the program and the timing is right for you. If not you, then who? And if not now, then when? Why not now? Head to renegadeaccelerator.com. Dr. Melanie McNally is on the show today as our guest, and she is a psychologist. She is also a friend of mine, and she's also a renegade student of mine, and she's just a special human in general. She specializes and works with teens and young adults and helping them become the superheroes of their own stories. When I met Dr. Melanie, she had a goal, and that was to take her successful practice in the physical world, seeing patients in her office just outside the city, and take it virtual, build her business more virtually so she could be able to kind of have some more map freedom. She and her husband have a cabin in the woods, and they wanted to spend more time there. So she started in the Renegade Brand Bootcamp, and fast forward, she's doing just what she set out to do. We talk through the steps. We talk through the fact that she had zero marketing experience, zero digital marketing and online experience, and how she transformed this and the little steps she took along the way. In a total renegade move, she's switched her hours and her days around to fit her schedule and has not seen any downturn in business whatsoever. If anything, she's definitely seen a rise. One of the things that I love so much about this story and what Dr. Melanie will share just tactically and tangibly is also the difference in how she feels, because she's able to spend time where she wants to be, and she feels like it makes her better at her skills, better as a human being, and just a happier person with more freedom. One of my favorite things to do is to help people identify and articulate their brand essence, and that's exactly what Dr. Melanie did. It was amazing to work with her. And if you follow her on social media, you will see she does not have a huge following, but she's still very successful in being able to turn social into a business building opportunity. She does it in such a humanized way where she's mixing relatability and credibility, and you just feel like you know her. This conversation with Dr. Melanie is wide-ranging. We talk about productivity tips. She has one that I've never heard before, but I'm definitely adopting. And she's just extremely inspiring and encouraging to those of us who are not setting out to be an influencer of any type. We don't have an aspiration to have a huge following online, but we do want to humanize in order to monetize, meaning we want to be able to leverage our story, our expertise, our relatability, and credibility in a way that can help build our businesses and let us live the lives that we want to live. And if that's a little cabin in the woods, then that's awesome. How we spend our days is how we spend our lives. For me, being able to design my own day is a non-negotiable. As many of you know, I'm a bit of a time management nerd. So when I find something that allows me to be more efficient and more effective, I want to share it with everyone. So here's the scoop. I have a new tool in my productivity tool belt, and I'm a bit obsessed. It's Monday.com. My team and I have never felt more organized, and I have a new sense of perceived control. My to-do list is no longer the boss of me. I feel more in control because every project, initiative, date, and task is captured and organized in one place. And my team is in the loop and involved every step of the way. With Monday.com, it's like I have a brand new operating system. There's no long list, and everything has its own home, its own deadline, its own team member that's assigned and associated, and it's color coordinated. We all have multifaceted jobs and businesses. There are many components to my business, and each and every one of them has its own compartment. Each division is always one click away. For example, my team and I have a dedicated board for this very podcast. Did you know there are 28 steps involved in getting one podcast to air? It's the same exact process every time. And it's a system. We have the various key steps mapped out as micro tasks. And this allows for my team and I to stay in lockstep every step of the way. With Monday.com, I can zoom out and see the big picture, a roadmap view from 30,000 feet. And a moment later, I can zoom in and focus on a specific micro task within a project, within a division of the company. I could go on and on about the features that Monday.com offers, one of which is I've built my social media content calendar inside of Monday.com. I finally have one that I actually use, that I like, and it's embedded into my overall Google Calendar. Another feature that I love is the Google Doc integration. You know I love a good spreadsheet. I can pull them into Monday.com and edit them right there versus having 97 tabs open on my computer. If how we spend our days is how we spend our lives, then I can't think of anything more important than using the time in our days wisely. Head to Monday.com if you want a free trial. And let me know on social media how it goes for you. Shoot me a DM. We can swap tips and tricks. Melanie, welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know the drill, how we start things off here. Can you tell me about a time when you had a big decision to make and you asked yourself the question, why not now?
Yeah, so I think the most relevant one would be when I decided to take my practice to create an online version of my private practice. So I'm a psychologist. I've had a private practice in Buffalo Grove, Illinois for quite some time, where pre-pandemic, I was seeing clients face to face for individual and group therapy and for testing. And I started to, maybe a year and a half ago, to start to have the idea of creating an online version of my practice. But I wasn't quite sure what that would look like. I didn't really know what services I would offer because I didn't want it to just be only teletherapy. I didn't really know how to go about it. I'm new to social media. I mean, I've only started using social media maybe 5 years ago. So I didn't really know about like online marketing or anything like that. So all these ideas were kind of percolating. And then in probably like late spring, early summer of last year, I finally just kind of hit my why not now moment where I'm like, what's the worst thing that'll happen? If this doesn't work out, I still have my private practice, to fall back on, and I at least create some sort of online mental health support for teens and young adults and just see where it leads me. So my first jump was just to reach out to a web designer and say, I don't have a business name. I don't have a logo. I'm not even clear on what services I'm going to offer, but will you create a website for me? And then right around the same time, I decided to join the boot camp so that I could get some help on, the online end with like social media and marketing and branding and all these things that were completely foreign to me. And by the end of 2019, I had a fully run, a website. I had services. I had a clear vision on what I wanted to do. I had a game plan. So I was ready to open my virtual doors, January of 2020. And thank goodness I did, because when the pandemic hit in March, and I had to shut my office doors temporarily, I was able to transition all of my private practice clients into my online services. I had the HIPAA compliant portal. I had all the paperwork. I had everything in place, so it was seamless. So at a time when their anxiety was really high, not a single one of them had to miss a single appointment. And it was just super easy and stress-free. So timing-wise, I'm so incredibly grateful that I did all of that work and I had everything ready to go from, based on what ended up happening.
It is incredible that this was all set up pre-pandemic. You were working on this last year just as a goal anyway. And then I look at the flexibility and the freedom that it can provide to work virtually. And what are some of your, I guess, two-part question. First, what's one of the biggest surprises to you throughout this process, in navigating this world that you're not familiar with? This isn't necessarily your swim lane, but you totally figured it out. So what's been one of the biggest, surprises?
I guess my first biggest surprise, because my online business, I really wanted it to be more for teens and young adults, because my private practice, it's probably 70% teens, young adults, 30% adults. But I wanted my online business to be 100% online support for teens and young adults. And I was really surprised initially at how adverse to being on camera the teens were, specifically the teens, that a lot of them only wanted to show maybe their eyes up, maybe only their bedroom ceiling. They really were not comfortable being on camera. I've actually witnessed a transformation in that because of the pandemic, where now everybody's, getting more comfortable with Zoom and being on camera. There still is a little bit of a pushback with that, but I was really surprised by that, because I thought that that might be an easier transition for some of the teens and young adults. So just like a little logistical detail that I hadn't really anticipated that I had to kind of find a workaround with.
That's interesting because a lot of people would probably think the other way. We think everybody, the younger generations are so, have adapted and adopted social media. So therefore, and that makes sense. So as you look at the experience overall and you think through, there were a lot of different steps that you took. And I know one of your goals was to be able to spend time where you want to spend time too, right? You have this adorable cabin in the woods, and I love following Dr. Melanie on social. You'll see her trails and trials. And what has that done for you in terms of, do you find a difference in yourself and in just your life because your lifestyle is shifting a bit?
100%. And that was one of the things I wanted with the online business is I wanted to have more flexibility and freedom because we live between two different homes, one in rural Wisconsin and then having a cabin in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. But I wanted to have more freedom to be able to spend more time up north and be able to work from up there. And now that everything's 100% online with me, my days are just different. We can get up in the morning and when we walk out our door, we're in the forest and it's dense forest. We are surrounded by all kinds of trees and wildlife, and we go on walks and we're looking for wildlife, evidence of wildlife, and get to see it, from the bears and the cougars, and, just having that perspective first thing in the morning, getting to be in nature is really important for me. I also know just from a mental health perspective, how healthy it is for us. It actually being in nature, it improves our attention and concentration. Even looking at pictures of nature has been shown to improve attention and concentration and decrease stress in people of all ages. But then when you're actually in it, on a daily basis, I just notice I feel just more grounded. I feel like more myself. I just feel more comfortable. I've noticed since I've been here and been able to do everything virtually, I'm not wearing makeup anymore. I'm just dressing more for comfort, as I'm sure most people are these days. But it's just, I just feel more like myself overall.
Oh, that's so cool. And I think we're going to be seeing more and more of that because in a way, working virtually, even, everything had to become virtual overnight. And I remember this person, I was giving a talk in San Francisco a couple years ago and talking about the power of building your personal brand online and taking your business online and what that can do for you from a freedom standpoint, from time freedom to map freedom to even financial freedom. And someone said, yeah, but not everybody can just go live in the woods. And at first I kind of thought, no, you're right. Not everybody can. And then I thought, well, maybe not everyone can, but I think a lot more people can that don't think they can type of thing where challenging let me really think why this isn't possible because I think we just assume, right? Because we've done things for so long. And you're a perfect example of that. I can't imagine when you were going through your schooling, if you would imagine you would be at this place where you're able to do what you do as a doctor virtually.
Yeah, that was not covered in any of the books or any of the classes at all. I do want to say one thing. You just triggered something in my memory. When we started the boot camp, you had us read the book on essentialism. And when that was kind of one of our first assignments where we had to kind of pare things down to what's really, truly essential as kind of like a time management strategy. And that was the first real shift, like a big mindset shift that I made, because at the time I was working only in my private practice and I was seeing clients Monday through Thursday. And I had this, after reading the book, I had this mindset shift of, I don't have to work Monday through Thursday. I'm just doing that because that's what all of my colleagues do. And that's what I've done at every group practice I've ever worked at. But I don't have to. And I made this shift of, wait a minute, what would happen if I worked Thursday, Friday, Saturday? Because I could still get everyone in on a Saturday as opposed to over 2 evenings. And now I'm only working 3 days a week instead of 4. And I had the idea at like 4 in the morning. By 4 o'clock that afternoon, I had emailed all my clients. I said, this is my new schedule starting in 1 month. Here are the times I have available. Within minutes, everybody had their time slots. Everyone was moved and it was done. And I was just like, oh my gosh, it was like this light bulb. Like, why didn't I think of this sooner? And now we have this flexibility to go back and forth between our two places where we can spend more time in the woods because I only have to be in my office 3 days a week as opposed to 4.
That's huge. I mean, I know it's like, well, gosh, I wish I would have thought of this so long ago. And we're just programmed that that's what you do. You work Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday or whatever, because everybody else does it, and that's what my industry does. And I'm so excited for you. You've got such a renegade mentality. And the first thing you said was you asked yourself, what's the worst thing that can happen, which is renegade rule number 1. And usually it's safe enough to try, just to try, right? Oh, I just love it so much. So I remember when you took the boot camp, you talked about, this, you haven't done this before. You're not necessarily an online marketer. What would you say to people who are in the same boat? Their skills and expertise is something completely different.
It's, kind of what you've always taught. You look at it as an experiment. You're dating ideas, you're experimenting. You're not looking at it as though you're locking into anything. Because with all of the online marketing and with social media, it is an experiment, and we see things shift so much. I mean, even just looking at what's happened with like TikTok in the last month or 2 months, how much of it, all the transition that's going through, and now with Instagram, with Reels, everything's just shifting and changing so much on social media that we can approach it from that same sort of mindset. We don't have to go in with this really set specific plan of attack and having everything curated and everything planned out, having all our images professionally done. And instead it's just kind of think of it as like this experiment on a day-by-day basis or a week-by-week basis of what works and what doesn't work. If it doesn't work, okay, it didn't work. That doesn't mean that I'm a failure or I'm an awful person. It just means I tried something that didn't work, and now I can learn from it and I can try something different.
So good. So true. And you've pivoted even since your original plan. And I mean, everybody has, the pandemic has caused that. But you were set up. You had set yourself up, right? And so 2 questions. One is, if I look at my last 12, 13 years in working in social, usually people in the world of medicine, doctors or professionals, as well as the financial industry or banking, usually they're like, I can't touch social, right? Talk to us about that, because I know it's a myth and there are some boundaries, of course, but I see you doing it. I mean, you're building your business and you have a completely virtual business with an accompanying social media presence. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's funny because when I first went through to get my master's in counseling, and I worked for a while in the field before I went back for my doctorate, even, through my master's program, it was just ingrained in us. You do not use social. You do not, no one should know anything personal about you. They shouldn't even know if you're married or if you have kids. Everything is very private. And when I went back to get my doctorate, things had changed a little bit, but still it was to the point where I was scared to even have a personal Facebook account. I mean, I literally did not create one until probably 5 years ago, because I was scared of clients finding me and like, oh my gosh, what would that mean for me and my practice? And when I started it, I went by my maiden name on Facebook as opposed to my married name, which is what my clients know me by. And I was really cautious about what I posted and what I shared. And then when I made that shift to start to create a professional presence on social media, I looked at, okay, honestly, it's not about oversharing, or it's not about making clients know every detail of my life, but it's about, first of all, sharing mental health tips that can be really valuable, but then also people getting to know me as a human and understanding that I'm still a human and I make mistakes and I struggle with my own anxiety and I have stress and all of those things. So it's not like as a professional or as a psychologist that, I'm going to have everything figured out, 100% of the time, because nobody does. And so just figuring that I can share these things, and as long as I'm, mindful of what I'm sharing and how it's presented, because I always want to be thinking of the teens and young adults who might view it, then it's okay to share things online. And then I ended up creating a pretty good social media policy that all of my clients have to sign about, if they follow me, I'm not going to follow them back. And if they post comments or, anything that would breach confidentiality, how all of those things are managed, because I do want to make sure that I'm protecting them and protecting myself. But as far as just putting a presence out there online, that's been something that I kind of now see as a necessity if you want to build a client base and you want to get known outside of your immediate area, your immediate location.
Yeah, that's a big hurdle. I think there's some misunderstandings too on legalities at times and just myths out there, but also of course you want to be dialed in and have a clear understanding of what is and isn't allowed. But I look at like your presence, Melanie, and I think about, your the two of the factors that we always talk about. I know I always preach is relatability and credibility. And what you just said is, you have your own struggles, and to be able to talk and share makes you so much more relatable. But then of course you have the cred, you have the experience and the education. And so it's kind of in a way, that's a wonderful formula. And you share yourself. I follow you, and it's great to see all of you. So in terms of connecting with like clients, have you had clients reach out to you because they've started following you on social? Like they became aware of you and you've generated business that way?
Yes, I've actually had quite a few people find me on Instagram and reach out to me, and I've had both parents and teens and young adults reach out to me and created therapeutic relationships that are still ongoing. I've had current clients and past clients also find me on social media and start following me, or just reach out to me and DM me. And it's funny because one of the big kind of aha moments that I had too was when, before I fully went virtual, or before I even had my online business set up and I was still seeing clients only in my office, I had a client who found me on Instagram and DM'd me, and in one single DM told me more about her life and more about her problems than she had told me in the previous 6 months in my office. And I had this kind of aha moment, because I realized that having a screen between us, it took away that vulnerability and it made her more comfortable to share. And it was really wonderful, because when I saw her in the office, we were able to talk about what she had shared and we were able to build on that. But if we hadn't had that online connection or that online relationship, she probably never would have shared that information with me. And so it just, that screen did allow it allowed her to just open up more in ways that she probably never would have been able to do in person.
That's huge. That's huge. What a breakthrough. I know social can get a bad rap a lot of times, but those things that you just explained and those experiences, they do happen, and it can be a huge bridge too. So, that just warms my heart. That's so, so cool. So one of the things we talked about in the program, and you were like a star student, because you just took massive action. And I was always so impressed by your figure it out muscle, right? So when we went through the exercise of what do you do, would you be willing to talk a little bit about that and how it transformed? So just for those listening, one of the things we do, and one of the things I teach in all of my courses, is how to identify your brand essence, that special secret sauce, so you can share it online and connect with like-minded, like-hearted people who are in alignment. And it's always a fascinating kind of transformation to see. But do you mind sharing a little bit of your journey of where you started, and any insight too? Because I know there are deep roots in why you got into this field as well.
Yeah, and I think I originally started with just my straightforward kind of thing of I'm a clinical psychologist and I teach anxiety management tips and tools. And as I kind of worked through it, and I don't even remember my steps, I don't know how I even got to the end result, but my end result was I help teens and young adults become the superheroes of their life stories.
Mm.
That was this big shift in how I, presented myself online and how I wanted to present my business. Because once I have that shift of like, this is what I do, it's more of a story and it's less before what I was doing, the way I would explain myself was so dry and straightforward and just really boring. I mean, so many people can say they're a clinical psychologist and so many people can say I help people, I teach anxiety management tools. Like, that's just kind of boring. But to, be able to tell it in more of a narrative and something that also kind of has a little visual, it was really effective and something that, it's fun to think of, people becoming their own superheroes.
Oh, I love it. You're sharing so much more about yourself and who you are and why you do what you do without even trying by that statement. It gives people insight into more about you that you look at it that way, right? Just because of that. And just that's it's such a big transformation as you transcend the what, like you said. A lot of people they have that same title, but nobody can do what you're actually doing.
And,
Yeah, just
to build on that too, where, I started to kind of incorporate a little bit more of my life story into just like my website and into my social media presence, just sharing like my own struggles with anxiety or talking a little bit more about how, I grew up in a really dysfunctional home and, dealt with a lot of abuse between my parents and the impact, that I know what it's like to grow up in a home that's really toxic and uncomfortable. And I know what it's like to deal with chronic stomach issues and headaches and to not be able to sleep at night because you're so anxious, not just about your home life, but you worry about everything, grades and friends and what people think of you. And how I had to learn to deal with my own anxiety and I had to learn how to set healthy relationships in my family system and create boundaries. And so I started to get more comfortable sharing that overall view and that part of my story. Whereas before, I feel like I really protected that information. I felt like that's something that people shouldn't know about me, when in reality, now I feel like that's actually really important because, like you said, with the relatability, but also just so people know that, especially teens and young adults, they can see that, okay, this is somebody who might have gone through some things and can relate. It's not, I'm not over here all by myself dealing with, my parents who are cheating on each other. And here's somebody who might actually be able to relate to what it's like to live in a home like that.
oh, huge difference for I imagine your clients that you're working with, and you get it to a level that they've probably never had anyone understand them on. So, that's and that wouldn't be the case if you didn't share your story. You don't just kind of have that. It has to be kind of shared. So, in a way, we always say we learn what we need to teach. That's what you're doing in such a epic kind of macro way in guiding these young adults and teens to have a path that you've walked but learned how you can change, you can own your story, and that's what you're doing too. It's very, very cyclical. It's very interesting. Okay, couple quick rapid fire questions. What keeps you up at night?
Well, right now, I would have to say the owls.
I love it. What kind? Do you know what kind of owls? We're going to totally go into nerding out about owls right now because I have an owl. We just got one too.
It's a juvenile great horned owl because they make, when they're young, they make these kind of ear piercing kind of
Screech.
squawks. Yeah, screeches, and they call back and forth to each other. So we have a couple. We haven't heard the parent, but we've heard the young ones. And I mean, and sometimes it sounds like they're right outside our window. And then it's been so pitch black at night, you can't see anything outside. And they're probably just in the woods and you can't see them in there. But yeah, lately that's really what's been keeping me up.
That's so funny. Same thing here. It's a great horned. Oh, we got our binoculars out and they're so pretty. So cool. In the day, we've been seeing it in the day, which is like really cool. What's something that you've read recently that you found just really interesting? It could be a book, an article, it could be a post on Instagram, whatever.
Gosh, I just finished reading Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? And that book, I mean, it came out in like the late 90s, and I'm actually angry that that book wasn't part of my master's. It wasn't part of my doctoral program. It's all about like racial identity. It's about the way, you know, Black people are treated in our society. And it's a thick one. It's written by a psychologist and everything's very evidence-based. And then she incorporates a lot of, you know, anecdotal information, but it's a mind-blowing book and really, really good, especially for anybody who works with kids, with teens, anybody who's interested in racial identity development or wants to understand too how to be anti-racist. It's just packed full of so much good information.
Wow, thank you for the recommendation for sure. It's interesting that it came out in the 90s as well. And that's, yeah, definitely going to check that out. Pirates or ninjas? Who is tougher and why? You know the drill. I love evidence here. Any kind of evidence-based opinion.
I have to go with ninjas because they know so many different moves and they also have the smarts. They have to be thinking, they're all about strategy. They're thinking, you know, 5 to 10 steps ahead. So whereas pirates, I feel like are a little more impulsive, and they're also a little more ADHD, you know, they're attracted to like the shiny object and then they're going to move on. So they're not necessarily like thinking so much long-term, whereas I think ninjas think more long-term.
Okay, there you go. I hear ya. That makes sense. Any like number one productivity tips? Because you're doing so much on your own. I know you have a virtual assistant, but anything pop to mind? You can give as many as you want.
You know, my biggest one is just to track, you know, to write down, it's really simple. I make my to-do list next to each item. I write down how long I think it will take. And then I look at what is realistic for me to get done in a day. And, you know, and then when I'm looking at if something's going to take me 25 minutes and I know I've got an hour, then, okay, that's something that's realistic. But it's just really simple because sometimes I have an idea in my head on something I'm going to do. And then I try and cram it in on a day when I just don't have the time. And then I end up getting nothing done. So just by writing down the amount of time it will take, I can kind of plug it in. I can plug each item in on my calendar.
Oh, that's so good. And the fact that you write down the amount of time you think it will take next to the task is a key part that most people don't do. So that's gold. Thank you for sharing that. And if you were to go back and tell your younger self something, but let's specifically choose 2 years ago when maybe you hadn't even started embarking on this journey to take your business online, what would you tell yourself? What advice would you give her?
Oh, I would tell her to I mean, you know, it's funny because it's kind of what you told me, like invest in yourself. I would just tell her to invest in yourself early on, because once you start investing in yourself, whether it's through like, you know, taking courses or doing a boot camp or reading books, but just to invest in that kind of education, I mean, that's really where the change happens. And that's where the growth and all the learning occurs. So not to put it off, but just to invest in herself in whatever means necessary or in whatever way is possible and given the financial circumstances.
Oh, huge. Such a good reminder, because it is like opening a door that you just don't end up closing, right? You see the ROI and you just keep looking for other opportunities. Oh, such a good point. Such a good point. Thank you so much for joining me and for sharing your wisdom and time. And I'm just beyond grateful.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for everything with the boot camp. It was such a phenomenal experience. And it still is, as we're still all connected and working together. It's been absolutely life-changing. So I so appreciate everything you've done.
Oh, it's the entire group. So thank you so much for being a part of it. everyone. Thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?